Yeah, this will be interesting. I hope the shot is good.
I just feel like so weird. Right, get going.
Get ready to go, Michelle. Yeah.
Woo! Let's do it. All right. So, what exactly is the visceral concept?
The visceral concept, like on a show standpoint, is all about the feelings that we had during 2020.
We really wanted to make something to reflect all of the emotions that we've been dealing with over the last year and make it something to just really develop those feelings and kind of process those feelings and hopefully maybe to like help other people process those feelings.
It's intense and it's overwhelming sometimes, and I think that we chose this solely because it's something that everyone could relate to last year, and I think 2020 was filled with overwhelming feeling and emotion, and sometimes it's maybe a reaction that you don't even know if it's logical or not. It's just something that you feel.
And it's about showcasing that it's okay to have those experiences. It's okay that you maybe had a terrible year. It's also okay if you didn't really struggle that much, since everyone's different. But one thing that we all shared about those feelings is that they were all really instinctual, deep, kind of almost surreal feelings.
We didn't want it to be anything like literal guts and gore or anything like that. We wanted to kind of focus on like that kind of like transient gut feeling.
And it's not only about raising awareness for those feelings, it's also about trying to put a positive spin on them as well, and to try to enact change in whatever way we can to try to make 2021 and the future in general a much better time.
Visceral to me, personally, it started off as just relating it to my own reactions to all of these horrible events and headlines that seem to be coming up every day, and that's kind of what I originally wanted to focus my work on, is relating my visceral, intense emotional reactions to these and just showcasing that with the viewer. Visceral reactions is not something that is kind of exclusive to me and my experience last year, so it's something that, everyone experienced 2020 differently, and I wanted to showcase that in my work and have it be more inclusive of the viewers' reactions and emotions. Coming up with my individual concept was a little bit of a struggle. It was something that I went back and forth on, was to keep it a little more focused in on my own reactions and emotions, or going towards the route of kind of it be a little bit more asking for more from the viewer when they're, in their thought process and their reaction to my work. I wanted the viewer to have that self-reflection and evaluation after researching different headlines and choosing which ones to include. It was definitely a process. I wanted to make sure that I included a lot of headlines that, reached out to a lot of different communities and a lot of different struggles that these communities had faced throughout the year. Because that was definitely something that was hard for me to maybe relate to when I did see those headlines pop up, because I thought, hey, this doesn't really affect me directly, but then it makes me kind of go into the process of thinking, like, who does that affect, and how would that chain reaction come back to my own life and my own community? And I think that was definitely a huge part of my work, was to make sure that chain reaction is known, and that your actions and your mental and physical reactions to these events is something that can come back to you, even if it doesn't directly affect you right away.
So how did you end up bringing that concept to life?
So eventually, when I did get to that final point of where I wanted to be at for my concept, is just to showcase that self-reflection to those events. And by doing that, I wanted it to be both a physical and a mental reflection. The physical being through the mirror that the viewer will be looking at, and then the mental reflection would be reading those headlines that I showcased, and forcing the viewer to maybe take some time and evaluate their actions or their lack of actions. And I think finally seeing that call to action on my work is something that hopefully encourages them to, make a change and think about themselves and how their actions will affect their community, and then communities around them.
When people go to the installation or they look at your work, what do you really want them to take away from it?
So my work is titled It's Time, and it is actually paired with my own personal mission to raise awareness for this great local organization called takeactionminnesota.org. And this is a really awesome resource that provides tips on leadership and how to initiate that change that I hopefully want people to think of when they're looking at my work, and think of how they want to be taking action towards that change. And along with just this, mental thought takeaway, I have a physical sticker that has my title on it, as well as the title of the organization, that can be just a constant reminder for people to be more aware of how they're taking action and how their reactions can affect those around them and their own life in their future or in the present time.
Okay, so what does visceral mean to you?
To me, visceral means, once again, it comes back to those intimate, core feelings. It was all about trying to stay sane during quarantine. April through, the summer of 2020 was a really stressful time for me, just because I was trying to stay safe, trying to stay indoors, and not everybody was, and I wasn't seeing my family or my friends on the same, frequency level that I typically did. And that was hard for me. It hit me in the gut a little bit. So what I would do is I'd try to get my social interaction online through Twitter, Facebook. And over time, it was draining, because that's all I did. I felt out of obligation, I had to keep consuming this because I didn't want to miss out. Maybe I was just bored and because I had nothing to do. So I just endlessly scroll on Instagram or something. And it ended up creating a lot of mental health problems for me. So I just wanted to take a step back and kind of realize that problem that it created.
So what is your individual show concept and how has it evolved?
My show concept is all about the struggle that I had last year. Battling between the push and pull between my real life and social media, and trying to stay healthy while doing that, and staying sane. As the project went on and it evolved, it became less and less about social media itself and more about just being able to use it in a healthy way. Everyone's different. We're not going to be able to take away social media, but we can definitely use it in a safe manner, and we can find a balance with it. So my project really went from being about showing how bad social media is for you to trying to make it healthier. So my final concept was, it's all about finding a balance between social media and your real life. Because like I mentioned earlier, you're never gonna have one or the other. It's a critical part of our society. And especially during something like COVID-19, where for a lot of people, that's your only avenue of communication with the people that you want to be connected to. You kind of have to have that in your life. So I figured finding a healthy balance is much better than just trying to get rid of it or to show how something's bad. The show consists of these different wooden boxes that I created. Half of them represent social media, and they're very bold colors, very artificial looking. And the other half are these natural walnut wood with very natural just aspects to them. And they're all made in these irregular shapes. So what the viewer is gonna do when they go up is they'll walk up and they'll physically find a balance between these boxes that represent social media and their real life. And the idea is that as they're doing that, they will find their own balance in their head. Maybe it'll spark some, it'll just make their brain go and start thinking about how they can actually implement something like this in their real life. My show is titled Stasis, and it's all about finding a personalized, healthy, individual balance between social media and your real life. And what I really want them to take away from it, is exactly that. Is finding something that works specifically for you. Finding, strategies that you can use to, when you find yourself in an endless scroll of doom on Facebook or Instagram, just to realize oh, I'm endlessly scrolling, I need to stop. And just having that reaction and doing something about it is a huge first step. So I just hope that people start recognizing their own habits, and then maybe starting to find a balance, or like making a plan of what to do when you have those tendencies. Because in the end, it's gonna go a long way for your mental health. Just super important. If they do go to my show, I have not only a personal art card, which I hope they take, but I have little wooden tokens that I engraved my show's logo on, and then also a QR code that links to my website where you can learn more about the show. I have linked to a company called Ellie Family Services, and they're a great resource for mental health advocacy and just support. So please go check out their website and learn a little bit about them. What does Visceral mean to you personally?
So to me personally, it represents all of those really intense feelings that I had over this last year, especially dealing with, the fact that there was so much loss of human life and it just kept exponentially growing and growing. And I just didn't know how to process those numbers. I didn't know, I was just doing what they said to do, try to stay in my house as much as possible. So I was just sitting at home with all of these feelings, and I'm watching this thing that looks just totally surreal, and just feeling paralyzed and just feeling like this sickening, horrible feeling that things are just going to keep getting worse and not really knowing what to do with it. So that kind of was a source of inspiration for me, because I wanted to have an outlet for that. So that feeling for me was kind of an overwhelm of data and not being able to connect on a personal level with that data. And another time I have felt that way is, feeling about climate change. And so I had seen some knitting artists create these climate change blankets, which are basically these interwoven pieces where there's a different color for each certain temperature range that they've chosen. And a lot of people have been doing this to represent, a year's worth of climate change. And I thought, well, that is a really excellent way to kind of represent and look at a huge span of data. And it makes it kind of tangible, and it makes it more approachable. And so that gave me the idea to maybe look at translating the COVID deaths data into some kind of tapestry to make it more real. From then on, it was mostly just figuring out, how do I want to represent the pattern? How am I going to show that data in a way that kind of makes sense, but is also visually appealing? Splitting the data into a few different subsets. I did weekly totals and also daily totals, and I used different color ranges for those and did kind of a left to right pattern. And then I also thought that because the numbers are so huge, every 10,000 deaths that I should tie a knot as a kind of a marker, like a milestone. I had this great idea that I thought, okay, tapestry, right? But how to display it? I didn't just want to stick it to a board or something. I wanted it to feel kind of meaningful somehow. I was inspired by Japanese Shintoism, where they have the beautiful wooden arbors. I really liked the symbolism. They have been used throughout history to mark the entrance to a sacred place. Because I'm working with this kind of data, I wanted to honor and memorialize the lives that have been lost. That's kind of why I chose the structure that I did. Also, I felt that it would be sturdy and it wouldn't be too difficult to get here. So that's how that kind of came to life and made it into the installation that it is today. So my show, The Cost of Ignorance, is all about the cost of our ignorance about this deadly pandemic. And the cost is human life. And the cost is paid at a higher rate in places where people have less insurance or no insurance, people who are in lower socioeconomic status. Just the fact of the matter is that those people died at higher rates. And so what I want to do with my show is to raise awareness for Bridges Health. They are a student-run organization. They support individuals who are uninsured or underinsured by providing healthcare services as well as counseling services. And I think that an organization like that is exactly the type of thing that we need. I hope that people who feel the way that I do will support this organization as a type of memorial for those that we have lost, for everything that we have lost, and hope that what we gain is a stronger sense of community and a stronger resolution to provide healthcare to everyone.
So we would like to give a special thanks to Colleen and Larry Woolner at Blue Heron Coffee House for letting us use their parking lot as our installation site. And then I personally would like to thank my brother Ryan for helping me build my structure from scratch. And I'd also like to thank my family for helping me install my structure.
I would also like to thank Ma and Danilo for all the help that they gave us with this project, from taking it from an early concept to actually physically making the installation and getting the ideas for those as well. So huge thank you to them. I'd also like to thank a personal friend of mine, Devin, for letting me use his truck, for moving things, and also helping us build the installation site. And then lastly, my parents, of course, for just supporting me throughout the whole semester and this whole process, as well as helping me figure out a few technical details in the beginning of the semester as well. So props to them, huge thank you guys.
I want to say a special thank you to my husband and my father-in-law who helped me build my structure, to my brother-in-law Matt who lent me his truck, and for my ever-patient group mates who put up with me through this whole time, and for all of my classmates that I have bounced ideas off of, and for all of you who are coming to our talk today. Thank you so much.